All right. We are here on case number D538315, Loftus versus Hall. Counsel, please state your name and bar number for the record.
Mary Perry, bar number 7863, on behalf of the defendant in an unbundled capacity.
And I'll note for the record the plaintiff's present in proper person. Let's start with some of the housekeeping that needs to happen. All of the exhibits to the opposition are being stricken. When you have 350 plus pages, they are to be filed separately and indexed properly. Since that wasn't done, they're simply stricken. I'm also striking them because they contain confidential CPS and dependency case information. I'm also striking any materials pertaining to the J case and the CPS matter that were attached to the motion. Again, they are confidential. And any supplement that's been filed that further contains such information is to be stricken. So, Carol, you're going to need to go through the docket because there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't belong there. Can we agree that I'll use this as the case management conference since I have both parties' pleadings now?
Yes, ma'am.
Save you a hearing? All right. Have you spoken with the plaintiff?
I have not, Your Honor.
I have a long history with this case.
Yes, ma'am.
It has come forward, then gotten dismissed, come forward and gotten dismissed. And my recollection is that your client has been unable to proceed up to this point because he was concerned about the safety of the children.
Correct.
My concern here is something tragic happened with the party's youngest child. Okay, we all know that. Okay? I mean, it's probably the height of bonehead things you can do. What I'm not entirely persuaded is that the two older children are at risk of harm with their mother. The reason I am not is because your client is apparently not as concerned as he would have me believe, because he has, when it works for him, left the children in their mother's care. Can't have it both ways.
Your Honor, one of the problems that we have in this case is the oldest child has already talked about having been taken to the pool and allowed to swim without floaties, and the same thing almost happened to him.
He's 7.
He still needs to have floaties if he's going to be taken to the pool. He needs proper supervision.
Why are you yelling at me, counsel?
Because this is a very...
Why are you yelling at me, counsel? Do you think that works?
I apologize for yelling at you.
No, put your hand down, ma'am. Now, let me see if I understand this. Does the child know how to swim?
No.
He swims across the pool, Your Honor.
What?
He swims across the pool, Your Honor.
Look, I appreciate that your client is very frightened that something would happen again.
Correct.
Okay? But that doesn't mean that children should just blanketly be forbidden from engaging in healthy physical activity, which includes a pool. We are in Southern Nevada, after all.
I agree with that. But
Now,
they need the proper devices on.
Well, see, that's what I have a problem with. You have to persuade me that this child can't swim. And at the age of 7, most kids in Southern Nevada know how to swim. They may dog paddle, but they know how to swim because they spend their lives in pools. I'm having a hard time accepting that a 7-year-old... Now, I'll tell you one other thing. Any kid who's 7, who has his parents telling me you have to wear floaties, is going to rebel at that because that's baby stuff. Floaties are for babies. Floaties are not for 7-year-old boys. And I can't imagine a bigger target on your back as a little boy at the age of 7 with other boys who are not wearing floaties when you're wearing baby toys on your arms. I have a hard time accepting that. That makes no sense to me. It's almost like being overprotective.
I can see that, but could we at least get an order that these children need their vaccinations? Emmanuel needs his teeth checked because mothers refused to do it. We've got documentation that the oldest one, I believe it was one.
Why are you changing the subject? No. Why are you changing
Because this is all in her care where they're not... I mean, she's got 5 other kids that was removed from her in California.
Miss Perry, dial it way down.
Your Honor, and
Sit
I
down.
do apologize.
Sit down.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe that will make it so that it's acceptable. Ma'am, put your hand out. I'm not ready for you yet. I am struggling with whether or not these two children, given all of the times that the defendant has had to pick herself back up, or the plaintiff has had to pick herself back up, are any longer in any danger. It's my understanding there is no pending J case there,
There isn't.
and in fact, that the plaintiff has availed herself of the services she needs as far as parenting goes. The children have been released into her custody, so nobody thinks that she represents a danger except for your client and apparently you. Now, I'm going to custody. We can address all this other stuff after I get done with custody.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm simply now persuaded, and that's in part due to the actions of the defendant, that the children cannot be in their mother's care. I will order that whenever either child is in the pool, and by the way, this is not an issue right now. I don't know if there are any pools open in Nevada other than indoor pools, but if either child is in a pool, mom's in the pool. Okay? No problem. You're in the pool. You keep an eagle eye on them. And I'm going to order you, if you're going to take them in the pool, get some swim lessons for them.
Your Honor, I belong to a drowning support group, and they have been scholarshiped the survival swim
So
lesson
listen
classes.
to me, okay? Make sure that you get the children their swim lessons and you provide proof to the defendant that the children have been trained to swim, okay? As far as floaties for a 7-year-old or even a 6-year-old, I'm going to have you leave it to the advice of the experts on whether these children. I can't imagine a 7-year-old boy wanting to put on floaties. I'll be perfectly honest. I can't even envision it because that's baby stuff. And Storm's not a baby anymore. He's a little boy who's been through an awful lot.
He has been.
He has, because he's got two parents that can't get their act together. But he's been through a lot, and so has his little brother. And they were old enough to know that they lost their teeny tiny brother, okay? And unfortunately, these things happen in Nevada. I'm not minimizing it. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair to the children. My orders are always child-centered. It is not fair to these children to put them in that position where they are going to be treated like babies because something bad happened to their little brother. So, swim lessons, absolutely mandated. They are to be commenced within the next 2 weeks. Find a place with an indoor pool. There's plenty of locations that have indoor pools, and you will teach those kids to swim. Okay? And you will provide proof to the defendant that the kids have been certified as pool safe. Okay? If the swim teacher says either child needs floaties, get them floaties. But it really hampers a child's ability to learn to swim, floaties. Floaties are actually, in fact, most swim instructors, my daughter was one, so I know this. Most swim instructors say never put floaties on a child, ever. Actually, they're more dangerous because they don't teach the child the right way to move your arms in a pool. They don't teach them how you can float yourself. So I actually think that floaties is a danger, which is why I reacted so strongly to Ms. Perry's suggestion that that should be something that's required, because that's actually dangerous.
Okay.
Now,
That I did not know, and I apologize.
okay, now you do. Okay, so you're going to do that, right? Ma'am, have the children gotten their vaccinations?
No, because the defendant didn't want them to get vaccinated. We traveled the country for 4 years. He had them in the care for a whole year.
Okay, here's the deal. And you two are going to behave yourselves because you've tortured your kids enough. You are going to, one of you is going to make an appointment with a pediatrician. You're going to both go. at the same time and hear everything that the pediatrician has to say at the same time. The pediatrician will set the kids up on a schedule of vaccinations. They won't get them all right away, and I'm kind of surprised they were allowed into the Clark County School District without them.
They're homeschooling these children, which my client objects to. She signed them up for home, and he's not even had contact for 3 months.
Really, when did I tell you to talk? I was
I'm sorry.
actually talking to her.
They're enrolled in Nevada Virtual Academy, which is a public charter school here in Nevada. He traveled the country, and I traveled with him since 2010. How are they going to be in school?
Ma'am, I'll tell you what. They are to be enrolled in the Clark County School District for the spring semester, whatever is zoned for where you live, okay? And you are to make sure that they're on track with their vaccinations by then, okay? If there's a vaccination hold until they complete them, you can homeschool them until then, and then thereafter they're going to be put in school, okay? And by the way, you can travel all over the country and you can just keep your shot records and you can find a pediatrician to give them vaccinations.
I agree.
But you're going to do it,
I agree.
okay?
And they are enrolled in...
Okay, now, moving right along. When's the last time the children saw a dentist?
This last spring when the defendant was at the surgery for our son. And I would have had them seen a dentist, but the plaintiff keeps calling Medicaid and transferring their insurance.
Your Honor, if she's the one who has the Medicaid, he can't be transferring the insurance.
Is that
Is
true?
your client employed?
He's just got a job with Uber.
And where's his financial disclosure form?
He hasn't even got the first paycheck
Why is that an excuse?
because he doesn't know what he's getting paid when it comes to tips and stuff like
But he's
that.
supposed to file a financial disclosure form, even if he's unemployed.
File a financial. Oh, hold on. Your Honor, the problem we have is for some reason that they think that everything needs to be filed as an exhibit. It was filed with one of his exhibits instead of it being its own separate document.
File it as a separate document so I pick it up. You know, when it's one of 150
No, I understand
pages,
completely. I understand completely.
make sure it's filed separately.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to send the parties to mediation. I'm not particularly optimistic. I'm also, I'd like to order them to the cooperative parenting class, but I don't think they have the resources right
I don't
now.
think they have that either.
But I will be, ma'am, please put your
Sorry.
hand down. I will be ordering that they attend the COPE class within the next 30 days. Now let's talk about, okay, we did the mediation. Now we got to figure out the timeshare. We're getting a divorce finally.
Mm-hmm.
This has been going on for a while.
Years.
And I am going to say a few things to the two of you before I set the timeshare. You two have to grow up. You have two little boys that are learning that violence between their parents is okay. Because you two seem to think that it is okay. And when either of your boys is a batterer or becomes a victim of battering, you only have to yourselves to look at in the mirror. Not me, not Miss Perry, not anybody else, just yourselves. You've got to learn to treat each other with respect. I appreciate that there's a lot of water under this bridge. I remember you standing right there telling me I don't want the divorce because I'm not ready to leave the children with their mother. Okay? I have a good memory. Really do. It's still firing. But what I'm telling you is I'm a believer in redemption. And I do believe that people make horrible mistakes. And sometimes they pick themselves up, they dust themselves off, and they start all over again. Frankly, I think both parents need to work on themselves, because this violence between the two of them is what caused the last CPS investigation. You are never done with each other. You are together, joined at the hip for the rest of your lives. You can do this easy, or you can do it hard. So far, you're doing a real good job at hard. Now, if you do it easy, you start treating each other with respect, talking nice to each other, sharing. And these two boys have a chance of graduating from high school without making your grandparents yet. They might go to college, maybe graduate from college. They each might get married, and maybe only once. And I will tell you right now, one of them is going to give you your very first grandbaby. Okay? Don't make Storm or Emmanuel have to decide who gets to go to graduation, who gets to be at the wedding, who gets to be in the hospital when that grandbaby is coming. Because that's what you're doing to them. These are little kids. They think it's their fault that their mommies and daddy don't get along. They blame it on themselves. They think there's something wrong with themselves. I will guarantee you these two little ones have very low self-esteem. And they are angry. And maybe they're not showing it yet, but they are angry and sad. You two might not be realizing it because you're so mixed up in your feelings about each other that you're not noticing. Your kids are watching you like hawks. They're forming their impressions of the world around them by watching the two of you. And I suspect that these two children feel very insecure because of the chaos that they have been subjected to most of their lives. And they're just little boys, and all they want to do is play, hang out with their friends, learn at school, and just be kids, and you haven't let them. You have not let Storm do that for almost 7 years. You certainly haven't let Emmanuel do it for all of his 6 years. And you two have to figure out what's more important. Who do you love more? Your sons or yourselves? What's more important to you? Your ill will toward each other or your children's emotional well-being? This is probably one of the cases where I think that this lecture I give, and I don't do it to hear myself talk, I really don't. I'm happy to save my voice. Where I think you need to pay attention to what I'm telling you. Because I don't think either of you realizes the damage you've been doing to these boys for all these years. By not trying to work together. I give you credit, sir. You know, a few years ago you were going to try, but it didn't work. And now you got to figure it out. And, sir, you have left the child with their mother. They have not been harmed. The swimming issue, I think, is frankly wrong-headed. And I think, you know, if you're going to get a divorce, you can get a divorce. And guess what? You're both going to be co-parenting, but separately raising these boys. So the children are going to be with their mom for overnights. They're going to be with their dad for overnights. And your job is to protect them. That's your job. That's number one. You sacrifice to protect your kids. I am not prepared to say that either party should get primary physical custody.
Even with the domestic violence perpetrated from the mom.
Oh, wait a minute. Shh. Not according to CPS. According to CPS, they both engaged in it.
Your Honor, there's only been one party arrested for domestic violence. He was only arrested the last time because the police could not determine who the aggressor was. He's the only one who's ever had marks on him.
I have never been arrested for domestic violence except for the last case.
And we've got her, we got all sorts of records with her admitting it. We've got letters from her admitting how bad she's been.
Well, save it for the evidentiary hearing. I'm not going to look at it. I'm awarding the parties joint legal and joint physical custody for now. They will exchange the children as follows. They will exchange the children on Sundays at 6 p.m. and Thursday morning at 7 a.m. or drop off at school. Exchanges that are not drop off or pick up from school will be by exchanging at the McDonald's at Bonanza and Pecos. You two have got to get your acts together. You are on such dangerous grounds when it comes to these kids. Like I said, I would love to send them to the cooperative parenting course at UNLV, but they don't have the resources.
We don't have a school to be picking them up at right now.
What?
There is no school for them to pick up yet. It will be in the springtime before that will happen, if they get their immunizations, because they don't go to a public school.
Then the exchanges will all be at the McDonald's at Bonanza and Pecos.
May we ask that this exchange be a little bit early, because he has not seen his kids in 3 months. The mother has absolutely refused to turn them over.
That's not true. I have text messages proving he can pick them up.
We'll have police records showing that he's tried to pick them up.
Back in September
getting
8th,
bored.
9th, and 10th.
I'm getting bored listening to the two of you. And I say that, I'm not really bored, I'm frustrated. Really frustrated here. Just frustrated. You know? Tell you what, I'm going to change it. The school zoning will be your client zoning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stop it.
And as soon as they can be registered, you can't get all your vaccinations at once. That's the problem. And they're going to want a certain level of vaccination for these children. But as soon as they're ready to register for school, they will go to school in the defendant's school district, and that's when that will be the exchange. Now, Dad will have the children from Sundays at 6:30 until Thursday drop-off at school.
Okay, 6:30.
Mom will have the other times. Now, in the spirit of goodwill, ma'am, you cannot say anything to me. If you try again, I'll kick you out.
Sorry about that,
In the spirit of the holiday season, how are we handling Christmas? If you default to me, the plaintiff will have the children, and these will be exchanges at McDonald's. Plaintiff will have the children from this Saturday at noon, until Sunday at noon. Then the plaintiff will have the children from Sunday at noon until Monday at noon, and then they'll go back to the regular timeshare.
Sunday to when? Monday at noon? Thank you.
In other words, one has Christmas Eve, one has Christmas Day. I'm not setting child support right now because I don't have a financial disclosure form from the defendant. Kids are on Medicaid. And I warn you, Congress has taken a hard look at Medicaid. A hard look at Medicaid. And we have so many parents in Southern Nevada who've been relying on Medicaid. I don't know if it's going to be eliminated, but I'm guessing it's going to be severely restricted. So you two have an obligation to earn enough money and have steady enough employment that you're able to provide medical insurance for these kids. Because this is scary stuff we're talking about. Within the next few years, I don't believe that you will be able to recognize Medicaid as it is now. I think it's going to have a tremendous impact, but it's going to impact you too. You have to start thinking about the future. You know, little boys, play football and break an arm. Play softball and break a finger. I did. All kinds of things. And when you think of all of that, if you don't have insurance, you're never going to be able to pay for the medical care they need. So you stay on Medicaid now. I mean, it's the stopgap for so many kids in our community, but you got to start thinking about the future. I mean, these two boys, as they get older, they're going to get really expensive. They're expensive now, but just you wait. So you got to start thinking about the kinds of things you as parents are going to do for these two little boys. They're going to need more. Are the children in any therapy?
They go to horse therapy at Paradise Ranch.
What?
They go to horse therapy at Paradise Ranch.
Horse therapy.
It's therapy on, he's there with the provider.
Okay.
And
I'm
I've
okay
had
with
them
that
at
for
West.
now.
I mean, he doesn't know any of this stuff because she's not told him, and she's.
Well, you know what? You're going to start talking to each other and telling them.
He was
May we use our family wizard or
Put your
parent
hand
talk,
down.
please?
Put your hand down. I'm done. I've issued orders. They're effective immediately per EDCR 7.50, but Ms. Perry, you're going to prepare an order from today. I've got you coming back on mediation.
We're going to come back on Tuesday, March 21st at 11 a.m.
And sir, if
we
you can
weren't gonna
see
do
your way to
mediation.
keeping Ms. Perry not as unbundled counsel, but actually as your counsel ongoing, that might be the best thing you can do for those kids. Ma'am, you ought to find counsel.
Can't afford it.
We have a program called Ask a Lawyer.
Can you?
It's free legal advice. We'll give you information on that. Ms. Perry, would you show them where the Family Mediation Center
ma'am.
is?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Thank you. We're already at the end of the year.